All right. And welcome back to the Have We Made It Yet podcast. I am comedian Josh Yang.
And I'm the actor Lucas Ng.
And this week we are inviting our first musical guest on, which we're pretty excited, full-on musician. And we can go into another stream of making it that we haven't really dived into as intensely as before with our actors, actresses, and comedians. But usually, at the start of all of our podcasts, we got to ask each other, hey, Lucas, have you made it yet?
No, but I'm going to start it off right here. So yesterday, in light of what we're doing and everything like that in terms of the quarantine and the pandemic, and plus the fact that I'm working in a place that I'm constantly being exposed, I actually got COVID tested yesterday.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was a pretty long lineup actually, but what they do tell you about you feeling like a tingling underneath like your brain is real. I got my results back in less than 24 hours. So I just highly encourage any of our listeners or anyone who has been exposed to it or maybe have come into contact with anyone who had it to get yourself checked out, because it's a neat process that I think will help you keep you safe from yourself, but also keep safe from other people too. So
crazy. So we'll see if you made it into the COVID.
I know.
Into the COVID statistics. Well, that's not a great way of putting it, but
yeah.
But yeah, wait. So what was the results?
They came back this morning, and I'm negative.
Oh wow, that's pretty good considering you've been working. Yeah.
So it's just been interesting then. But the show is not about COVID.
It's a little update though.
Update. Mr. Josh Yang, have you made it yet?
I have not made it yet. I haven't made it yet. And is anything I can update? Not particularly. I mean, there was the one kind of Asian-centric podcast that I did, Rice Asian comedy podcast. The producer of Mong Show managed to get in contact with Spotify Canada, and they were like working with him to try and promote his Asian podcast. So I was on a couple episodes, and I think last week he posted a couple photos of the podcast and like Spotify's branding and everything up on a billboard at Dundas Square. So like the big kind of electric. So that was kind of cool to see somebody that I know in the industry managing to catch an odd break like that, because I don't think there were that many Canadian Asian-centric podcasts. So who knows? Maybe this one. I don't know. Maybe next Asian Heritage Month.
Yeah, next year, 2021, man. Look out for us.
Maybe. But yes, so this podcast, though, we have a very exciting guest. I actually knew this guest back in college at SFU, way before I even considered doing anything in comedy. I wonder, I'll probably ask her about that, her ideas about it when we were both in a marketing club together. But yes, so our next guest, that's how I know her. Our next guest is a singer, songwriter, and a musician based out of Montreal. Ooh. She also co-runs a branded vintage clothing business called Positive Spaces Montreal. And exciting times, the music video for her debut EP, Birthday, I believe, is now out on YouTube. Please welcome Lenny.
Woo!
There we go.
Hello.
There we go. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, it's our first full-blooded musician, like fully into the musical stream. We've had a couple multi-talented guests before, like touching into the music element, but we haven't had somebody who's like a full board going into it. So we're very excited to have you on and ask you some interesting questions about that. And the first question usually that we ask is, so Lenny, have you made it yet?
Well, I've certainly made it this far. That's probably my best answer to that question, honestly. This far, so good.
So far so good. I mean,
Yeah.
you've hit a milestone, at least when we were talking about, a musician being able to put out their music with your EP, right? So it's the EP, but also your first music video that you managed to put out on YouTube.
So I've just put out my first single. So I don't have my
Single.
EP out yet.
Oh, did I get those mixed up? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so my EP, so I'll be releasing a 5-song EP at some point, I guess maybe in the fall. It was supposed to be this summer, but because of the pandemic, it's like recording. The end of our recording was put behind a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be hopefully sometime in the fall. I'm like crossing my fingers.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I got those mixed up, and this is good that we're asking. I'm interested in learning more about that process of like making it within the musical industry, the music industry. So like in terms of the difference then between single and EP, like single comes first and then the EP is the next, and then how does it like later on turn into like say album?
I mean, so it's not like it's a linear process that everyone follows, of course. Like, I mean, it was more common, before Spotify and stuff to just release an album. But now, because there's way more people like recording independently and everything, I think EPs seem to be a lot more common.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because it's cheaper. Like, you don't have to pay as much to get a full album recorded. And the single is something, like it's just a good way to kind of give people a taste of your music before you actually release your full EP. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did first. Like I actually released that single a little while ago, just as an audio track.
Right.
And then we released the music video for it. I guess it was a couple weeks ago. And then the EP is coming out after that. But there are lots of people these days that just will only record, or they'll only release singles.
Right.
Like a lot of people don't even really release EPs nowadays. It seems like it's like kind of like a cool thing to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
With your single though, I was watching the music video for it. It looks beautiful. Like the choreography on it looked really nice.
Thank you.
Was dancing a big part of your inspiration for Birthday?
You know what? It was actually, when I was trying to, come up with a concept, I would just end up like doing kind of like the same dance moves when I was like listening to the video, listening to the song way too many times, trying to come up with an idea of what we could do for the video.
Cool.
I just always ended up doing this kind of like just like swaying, chill kind of dancing.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's the feeling that the song invokes in me. Is just it's a really like, happy song, even though of course like the lyrics themselves are not actually all like happy and sunshine, everything's great. Mm-hmm. But the vibe of the song after it was produced, because I normally play an acoustic version of it, that actually is quite different. But yeah, the dancing just kind of came. It just felt like a spring summer song, and we wanted to shoot outside because we shot last summer. So yeah, just kind of fit with everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It just really gave me like an FKA Twigs kind of feel to it in terms of its melodic tendencies, but also the visuals really played well with the whole vibe and even the color direction of the song. It was blue all over, but it felt so real too at the same time.
Right. Thank you so much. That's very nice of you to say.
Oh, no problem.
I'll make sure to pass that on to the team that made the video with me.
Yeah.
The cinematographer did an amazing job shooting. We got to shoot at this beautiful property. So our director is a friend of our director. She has this family cottage outside of Montreal, maybe like an hour and a half outside of the city. And so we got to film on the property, and it was just like gorgeous, like so much beautiful green spaces on the lake. So it was really easy to make the video, aesthetically pleasing, especially for the outdoor shoot. And so we got a stylist on board,
Nice.
Ariana Sauter, and she works at Empire Exchange. It's a vintage shop in Montreal. And so we got to borrow a bunch of clothes from Empire and
Nice.
to use for the video. So that was like a dream come true for me because I love that store and I'm obsessed with vintage shopping and thrift shopping.
Yeah.
So it was so great to be able to do that and not have to buy any, clothes that I was never gonna like wear again or anything. It was great to be able to borrow some. I actually ended up buying a few of the pieces, like
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, I wear this like little, like it looks like a Barbie doll outfit. It's like a little, like a shorts, like jumpsuit set thing.
Okay. Okay.
It's like this pink and orange little outfit. Like it really looks like a Barbie outfit to me.
Yeah.
I like had to buy it. I was like, there's no way I'm taking this back to the store. Like, no, I can't. No, this needs to stay in my possession forever and ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. How did it feel to see the finished product of your first music video?
It was amazing for many reasons. One of which was that I was so nervous being on film. Like I was terribly, terribly nervous, like way more nervous than I am when I'm playing a show. It was so new for me to have to, I mean, not that I was trying to look any certain way. I was just like, okay, I need to like at least look comfortable in front of the camera so that
Yeah.
the viewer feels comfortable seeing me. Those are my standards for myself. So to see what Elena Petkovic, that's the cinematographer, to see what she did editing and filming, like I was blown away. I was so happy to see that she, managed to capture the peace and the happiness and the beauty of what we experienced rather than my nerves, which was such a relief to me. So it was really cool to see it as a finished product. And it also, it was so cool to just add a completely new, obviously new visual level to the song. I was really excited because my producer Gino Visconti and I worked on that song for months, and I literally came into the studio and it was like, okay, here's the song, just me and guitar. I'm like finger picking and on my acoustic or electric guitar, and this is what I have so far. And then we ended up like not even using the guitar piece in the produced song. So it had changed so much anyway from how I originally wrote it.
Right.
So then to see it evolve even more into something, take this thing that we loved making so much, and then it turns it into this visual story. It was very rewarding. It made me very happy.
Oh, that's probably a crazy experience. Was it kind of like different? Obviously it'll be different, but like what were some of the expectations you had then, like say early on, years before, when you started thinking about, getting into music, writing your own songs, creating music videos? Like, was there some kind of idea of that process that you had before that it was actually you realized was completely different to what you thought it was?
Well, I mean, yes, because really for the most part, a lot of my work as a musician has kind of not really been very planned. I started writing songs when I was like maybe 13, 14. Like I found my brother had got this massive Fender acoustic guitar. Like it's a really large dude's like guitar with like really thick strings. He bought it at a garage sale, and I just saw it one day. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I just picked it up and I started playing I Can Tell We're Gonna Be Friends by the White Stripes. That was my first song that I learned. And from then on, it was just like, I played a few songs and I like pretty quickly just started writing my own songs because it was just more fun to me. And I just like have just played music for myself for many, many years. So like all throughout university, I was playing music every day, but I wasn't playing it for anyone.
Okay.
It was really just like, and I was so nervous to show anyone. Like I just really had no intention of ever showing anyone my songs.
Yeah.
Until my roommates, when I was like maybe 22 or 23, like they heard me playing songs in my room and they were like, what's that? Like let me hear your song. And so they were like the first people that really encouraged me to, play in public basically.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like, I started very slowly playing, like I think the first show I played like a couple random things like when I was a bit younger, like I played covers a couple times, a couple like shows, but the first time I played my own music for a crowd of people was at my dad's 60th birthday party.
Wow.
Whoa, that's
Which was like 6 years ago, maybe, or
yeah.
no. So like really was not, no, it was like 5 years ago. It was not that long ago. And I only did it because my dad like begged me. I was like,
Yeah.
Dad, I don't know if your friends are going to want to hear my songs. Like, they're not all very happy. Some of them are like, pretty emotional. Do you want that for your birthday?
Yeah.
And he was like, I want this for my birthday present from you. So please play this. So he basically had to like slightly guilt me into doing it. And yeah, and so I did that, and I did one other show at like a kind of a variety show in Vancouver. And then that was when I already had plans to like leave the city and go traveling for about a year, and then I had plans to move to Montreal. And so like I guess it happened kind of like in the few months before I left Vancouver. I guess it was in 2016. I met someone. I ended up dating a producer, a really awesome producer in Vancouver, and so he had all this recording equipment. He's like, I can record you sing, and I was like, oh, I mean, yeah, okay, let's try it. So like it was always just very like I've never been very good at planning it. And then the first time, so when that happened, we recorded a couple songs. They're on my YouTube channel. Birthday and Miami Shirt, those are the ones I recorded with him.
Oh yeah, I saw Miami Shirt. That's great. That's a great song title. Just Miami Shirt. That's a pretty good song title.
Thank you. So that happened, and then I moved to Montreal about a year later after traveling, and like I think the first night that I went out with my friends, like I was reunited with my good friend Nikki, who had moved to Montreal like 10 years before me. Right when we finished high school, we met up, went out, and like got very drunk and ended up at an open mic. And so I played at the open mic, and I was like, oh, that was pretty fun. That was pretty easy. I should just keep doing this. And so that has been how it's kept going. So there's really never been one point where I was like, I gotta really like, make some long-term plans here. Like it just kind of happens as it goes, and I just keep going because I love it.
Do you get blasted before every show now?
Yeah, every show. No, I actually can't. I can't drink at all before I perform. Like, because it's like if I end up playing well when I'm tipsy or drunk, like that's great and that's very lucky. Yeah. But it doesn't always happen because I do get nervous when I go on stage. I think that first open mic I wasn't expecting to play, so I was just like, oh yeah, sure. I don't know, like why not? I know, like I'll play a couple songs. But now, like if I have a show, like no, I save my drink tickets for afterwards.
Nice. That's a pro move. That's a veteran move.
Yeah. I do that. I have that exact same process. Like right before during the entire day. I've said this before. Like I feel it. The anxiety slowly creeping. It's like, oh, I got to do a show later at night. On the way to the thing, I get more anxiety a little bit. And then when I'm at the club, I can never drink, alcohol. I always try to limit the water I drink as well, because I don't want to go and like have to like piss right when I go on stage. So it's always like try to maintain focus. And then the second I walk off, I'm like, okay, now I can have a beer. Now I can like not stress about it. So I feel you. I feel you there.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah. I think I had a question when it was, so you mentioned that like, it's not a very planned process, and similarly for me, and I think for Lucas as well, it wasn't really a planned thing. In like college, I never even thought about really doing it. And it's kind of through friends encouraging, and once you get a taste for it, you kind of don't want to let it go. Do you remember a time though where like you realize it's like, I'm liking this seems to be going well. I feel like now I want to commit to going, like giving it a full-hearted try?
Yeah, I think that happened in my first year of living in Montreal. So maybe just a couple years ago, I started working for a Quebecois guitar manufacturer company. They make Godin and Seagull guitars. So I was working in communications for them. So I was their communications coordinator, and I was just like spending all day, you know, like talking about and learning about like the mechanics of guitars. And I was just
Yeah.
with like a bunch of people that are all obsessed with playing music. And so like I was working with so many musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a dream in that sense. I didn't end up working there too long. Like a big reason for that was because the office was like a ridiculous commute from my house. Like it was like 2 hours to get there in the morning on the
Wow.
One
bus, and
way,
it was
two
just like,
hours.
yeah, it was the kind of thing that
Ooh.
like that you can like only do if you've like just broken up with someone and you don't have many friends in a new city, and you're like, hey, you know what? I've got the time. I might as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I worked there for a bit, and then when I got to a point where I was like, I think I'm ready to leave because I can't do that commute anymore, and I think I need a break from working in communications full time. I just want to play shows because I started like I played a few shows. You know, I was meeting more and more people,
Mm.
and I was getting asked to play shows around town. And I was like, I should just do this. I should just like not do the job thing for a bit. Like I'll work part-time, and
Yeah.
I'll just like hustle and just see what I can do in a year and see what I can like, you know, what I can make happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I played so many shows. Like it was so much fun for
Nice.
me. Like I was just like for the day after my last day at my job, I had a show, and it just like, and I had like 5 shows the next week. Like it was just like, it really felt like a sign from the universe. It was like
Yeah.
everything was just lining up. I was meeting so many people, and because like every show you do, right, you meet someone
Yeah.
else, and then they have a show they're planning and they need an opener or something. So it's all happened super organically. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that, yeah, that was definitely the moment where I was like, all right, I'm ready to just like dive in, especially because Montreal is such a great place for musicians who are starting out. Like it's a great
Yeah.
incubator.
I was gonna ask that because I managed to follow a friend of mine who we actually had on the podcast earlier, Arsalan.
Mm-hmm.
He managed to work it out with a venue in Montreal called the Blue Dog Hotel. I don't know if
Oh yeah, yeah, I
have
know.
you ever performed there?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
recently
So
actually. Yeah.
yeah, so for them, like he managed to work it out with them to do a show, and I remember it was during like February time, and at that time I didn't really have anything. I was thinking of joining him, so I joined him on his show. It'd be first time he was doing half hour, and I went there to support him. First time to see Montreal, get a sense of the comedy scene there as well, and
Nice.
like managed to go up and do a 5 minute set on the day of. Just as like, oh, might as well, we could just add you to the set list and stuff.
Oh,
So
cool.
already then I noticed that there was like definitely a bit of a difference between the scene in Montreal versus in Toronto. I wish I could have experienced it a little bit more. So when it comes to the Montreal music scene, is there something where like you could describe a sound like associated with kind of the scene that you see going on right now, or is there like a mixture of different type of sounds operating at once?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because I'm obviously part of a certain like community of singer songwriters. So I'm kind of in, you know, like the indie, like folk, pop, like soul. There's like a lot of, actually there's a lot of genre overlap now that I think of it,
Yeah.
at the shows that I play at. But I mean, I think that it seems like Montreal puts out a lot of genre mixing music.
Mm.
Um, I think like definitely there's definitely kind of like an energy to a lot of music that comes out of Montreal, even if it's like, you know, emotional, and even if it's not you know, like house music, because I know Montreal, and it seems like everyone in Montreal loves house music, and I didn't really know about anything about it until I moved to the city. Um, but no, there's like a lot of like indie rock, indie pop kind of like genre mixing music that just sounds like kind of everything at once. And it's got this
Mm-hmm.
like, it just has this like, you know, sometimes there's like this lo-fi feeling to a lot of Montreal music.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, there's a lot of different stuff happening in Montreal. Like it's hard for me to like really describe it. Whenever I get
Right.
into kind of like talking about genres, even when I'm talking about my own music, I'm like, you know what, your guess is as good as mine. I don't really know what that is because it's kind of
Yeah.
everything. Because
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the even just the process of like creating music as well. It's always going to be a blend. Different inspirations are going to come hitting
Mhm.
you different ways. Like in terms of how have you found like the ecosystem then in terms of like all the different venues? Is it like pretty easy to go from venue to venue, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it seems like so far it seems like it's pretty easy because there's a lot of small bars that cater to like similar kinds of clientele, just like young people in Montreal. There's so
Yeah,
many of them. Like there's so many young people in Montreal that just like have time and a few bucks to like get beers 4 times a week, it seems like.
right,
So there's definitely an audience, and those kinds of venues, they're not paying you a lot, so they
right.
attract kind of like, musicians like me that are newer and are just kind of like working on gaining a following. And then every time it's like if you do a show, then someone's going to hear you or see you there or see your post about it, and then chances are like there'll be someone nearby that's like,
Yeah.
planning another show, and so it's just kind of like this web of shows. That's how it seems to work so far.
Yeah, no, that sounds very similar to like how the Toronto comedy scene is set up. Like we have one main Facebook group where a lot of people will post shows and you can ask for different spots to go on them. But a lot of the times, if the more shows you go to and like you perform, then somebody else on the same set list that you're on will be like, oh, I'm doing this show as well. You want to come and do 5 minutes, come and do 10 minutes, that kind of thing. So it seems like that it's good to have that kind of ecosystem where everybody is, very open to giving each other opportunities to perform. And for like stage artists, definitely stage time is the most important element of
Hmm.
it. How have you felt transitioning to no stage time?
It's been so sad.
Yeah.
Oh,
I had so many shows lined up for this spring that I was so excited about,
Yeah.
and they just disappeared into thin air like that. And I still get notifications on my phone and my calendar to be like, "Oh, you're playing a show at K Day Bloom tonight," or "Oh,
Mm,
you're playing a show at," like, and I'm just like, "Oh, okay, another life." The before times. It's been rough,
yeah.
and it's also been kind of like, I mean, of course, the pandemic's been like a little demotivating. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
when it first happened, artists everywhere were like, "Now I've got my chance to make all this content and
Right.
make all this music or make all this
yeah.
art that I never had time for beforehand." And for me, I was like, I haven't, like, I would go weeks without playing my guitar. Like, I start to lose the calluses on my fingers. Like, I just
Yeah.
like, there was something creative in me that was like, no, we're taking a little back seat right now. Like, you're going to
Yeah.
focus on just, surviving basically for a little while. So it's been hard, but I've been getting back into it more and more recently. I had a live show for like
Mm.
this marketing agency that I've worked with before. I've played shows for them and stuff. So I like did a Instagram live on their profile
Oh,
recently.
nice.
So that kind of like got me practicing. Basically, I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
have a reason. I have like a deadline. Sometimes I just need deadlines.
Yeah.
How is it like for you to play with no audience, but also at the same time know that there's other people watching you too?
Yeah, it's a little bizarre for sure.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I wasn't by myself. My partner and my parents, because it was just last week, so
Oh, cool.
they were they were outside on the patio watching me. So I had an audience of three.
Yeah.
So it was
Nice.
actually like it was really funny because I kind of felt like I was playing two shows at once, but I was like
Mm,
kind of ignoring my IRL audience.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it was funny, like, because I'm not very good at paying attention to what people say in the feed and stuff. So every once in a while, I was like, yeah, thank you, but I'm trying to act natural, and it's
Yeah.
strange because you don't want to like ignore the people that are watching you, but you're also like, I don't know how to engage with you right now. Like, this is
Yeah.
not a normal stage, right?
Plus the whole structure with Instagram Live or any kind of live streaming program, like there's so many comments sometimes, like there's no way you can pinpoint what anybody is saying. There's like no conversation. They're just bombarding you with words. So it's always a weird thing there. But I'm wondering then, because I'm thinking from like a perspective of like a comedian, like doing Zoom shows is the weirdest thing in my mind. Is like I just don't understand it, because a comedian, in order to work on material, you need to gauge audience reaction. You need
Right.
to understand timing, rhythm, how it works in a room full of people, and like through Zoom, it just people need other people with them in order to feel like they have a permission to laugh sometimes, or else
Right.
everybody's just in their own little box of tension that is like, oh, I think that's funny, but I don't know if I should laugh or whatever. So in my mind, it's so bizarre. But in terms of like from a musician, like you write music and you create music from kind of definitely from an internal perspective, and then you put it out there. Um, Whereas comedians need external feedback. Like, how do
Mm-hmm.
you kind of take external feedback of whenever you're performing something so intimate and like you've worked on so much, and like how does that affect maybe your evolution of your songwriting or your song developing?
Um, yeah, that's interesting. I don't really know the answer to that question. I mean, I'm trying to think like it's hard to say because it's like I think that really truthfully if I played a show and people didn't really like it, they'd probably just clap anyway because they'd be like, yeah, this is what you do after a song.
Right.
So it's like sometimes I don't really know. I try to ask my friends, like what's if I play a new song,
Mm,
like I'm like, okay, how'd you feel about that song? Or I just wait to
Mhm.
see if anything stood out to them. Like I usually ask my friends, like, oh, like if they're at the show, like, do you have a favorite song that you heard tonight? Just to see if
right.
there's any kind of favorites that pop up. But
Mhm.
um, it really, the thing that I'm learning is that like it changes show to show. Like people's
Oh yeah.
favorites change a lot, and it depends because it totally depends on the vibe and the energy and the person too. Like it's
Mhm.
really hard for me to get an idea of like what my hits are,
Mm.
my my hits. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah.
that's so true as well. Like you hear a lot of artists still put out an album, a bunch of different songs, and songs that they think is going to be the hit of the album is not the hit, and then songs that they didn't realize was going to pop off just suddenly, hits number one. So it is interesting. It's like there, of course, within all of our like kind of fields, it's all subjective.
Yeah.
Like you really have no real idea. So I find it interesting in the music writing and producing sense. Like how do you so for you you focus more so on just how you want it to sound, not necessarily right how you imagine other people would like it or not, right?
Yeah, I can't I really can't get into that, like, in
Mhm.
terms of, like, I can't get into that mindset when I'm writing. Like, if I start to think, like, "Oh, but what will they wanna hear?"
Yeah.
It's just, like, instantly I lose my authenticity, it feels like, and
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
feel like I'm doing, like, a copywriting job or something, like, I'm just writing for
Right.
someone else, and it's not really me, and I think I think, like, for the most part, I can sometimes, like, I'll write a new song and, maybe I'll perform it once and it won't really feel like it clicks for me,
Mhm.
and I'll
Right.
kind of be able to sense that in the room. Like I won't get as enthusiastic of a reaction as I did from the last song, for example. And
Mm,
that kind of like helps me. I'm like, okay, like maybe there's something else I need to add to that song.
right.
Maybe my kind of not insecurities, but my questions that I have about the song, maybe that it's not figured out yet. Or maybe I need a full band because I
Mhm.
often play solo. So that's kind
So
of a major part of it.
Yeah.
yeah, for like a while, like Arcade Fire was the sound coming out of Montreal and everything. So a
Mhm.
lot of like the indie rock kind of sound to it of almost like a 9-piece member orchestral band kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like how would you describe your sound?
How would I describe my sound? I mean, I guess I say that I'm something like folk pop, I guess.
Cool.
Mm,
Sometimes people tell me I have like soul sounds a little bit, and sometimes people tell me that I'm like very country. I was heavily influenced by Shania Twain as a child, like heavily.
Oh yeah.
So
I read that.
that makes sense. So sometimes I'm like, maybe my music's like Shania Twain. I'm still kind of figuring it out. I really like, it's so
Yeah.
hard for me to say. That's kind of one thing I'm hoping to discover with this EP once it's out. I'm hoping that once I
Yeah.
have the EP produced, I'll be like, okay, what genre is this? I'm really hoping I'll be like, that's basically
Yeah.
indie pop folk. Like I'm
Yeah.
still, yeah, it really feels like, I mean, it's like singer songwriter stuff. I know I have a certain kind of personality of sorts. It's just hard to put my finger on it for myself. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, people ask me what genre and stuff. Like, I really, it's hard to say. Like, I think that I tell stories a lot in my music.
Yeah.
And my music is definitely always very focused on the vocal melody and the vocals and the lyrics for sure. Like, I'm not an expert guitar player. I mean, I love playing guitar, but definitely the vocals and the lyrics are what sweep me away.
Right.
And the story is what kind of like captivates me and what gets me like, into this mood when I'm playing music. It's the kind of like the meaning of the story that I'm telling. So it's very much like storytelling, and using like variations in my voice, and like using the power of my voice and using my tone and using just like different notes to kind of like convey a meaning and an emotion. So that's what I think about a lot when I'm playing my music. So
That's so true, because it sounds like your tastes are very eclectic. Like you liked Celine Dion, but also you did a Daniel Caesar cover too.
yeah.
So like, although I'm sure both parties respect each other, that is like pretty divergent in terms of your tastes.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I really don't, I'm not very good at being like, oh, all of my influences are part of this cool genre. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
I learned to sing by listening to the Beach Boys, Shania Twain, like I said, Bette Midler,
Nice.
Celine Dion, like, so just like a lot of like powerful women vocalists.
Right. Yeah.
And then like, but then when I'm at home listening to music, like I'm not listening to Bette Midler all the time. Like, I listen to like a lot of like chill, like folky music. Like, I listen to Iron and Wine all the time. Like,
Nice.
my music taste is definitely all over the place. So I think that probably, I mean, I've kind of always been like that. It's always been a little bit hard for me to like commit to one thing, or identify one thing that I like doing and only doing that, or like
Yeah.
commit to one sound. I like to try things out.
Interesting. In that same vein, then, because I know, like for acting, you kind of have to draw upon a lot of inner experience, or you have to kind of generate the emotions. For comedy, in terms of like creating material, sometimes like a comedic's brain just never turns off. The second an idea comes into your head, you gotta jot it down on your phone, or with a pen, or else it's gone. From a musician's perspective, then, when it comes to like capturing inspiration, or just the process of getting started, like, can you describe a little bit of how you find your inspiration, or even identify what it is and be able to like say, it's like, oh, I've got something, I can work on that?
Mm. Yeah, it comes from a few different places. Like, sometimes I'll hear myself say something, or I'll hear someone say something, like just like a sentence or part of a sentence that they say, and I just like the way that sentence sounds in my mouth and in my head.
Yeah.
And I think like, ooh, like I love the different meanings that sentence could have, and I love the, like, I don't know, like the physical shape of the sentence, if that makes sense. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
love how satisfying it is to hear and to think about and what it could mean. And so sometimes I like to kind of take that and then build a story off of it. And so I do that. And I also, sometimes I'll just start out with like a melody, or like a melody, or I'll come up with like a cool chord that I like. I'm not like very well trained in singing or guitar, so I just really like fuck around on my guitar until I like find something I like sometimes. So like a song that I'm writing right now, for example, I just started out with a few chords, and I found this one chord that was kind of weird and cool, and I was like, how do I feel when I play this? Like, what do these chords make me think of?
Yeah.
and I started thinking about the cabin that my family has been going to for, like, I guess since the 60s when my grandfather built it.
Wow.
And it's like on this little lake in the interior BC. So I just started thinking about, going there as a child, and also I started thinking about, my grandmother's perspective of being, like raising this family, going there every year for, every year until the year she passed away, basically.
Mm.
So I like to think about different people's perspectives too of a situation. Like I'll think about my perspective, but then I'll think, but what about this person that was also there? Like, what was going through their mind? Or I like to explore, like the potential kind of like thought patterns that maybe someone might have been feeling based on what I know about them and where they were, and how the cabin felt, like physically felt for my grandmother. Like she was always the first one to jump into the lake. And the lake is like it's freezing cold.
Aww.
Like I never understood it.
Yeah.
And every time I was there, she's just diving in, no problem. And I would always just watch her like, what? Like, how do you do that? It's like this crystal clear, like freezing cold water. And so that's kind of, that image in my mind is like the first thing that I wrote about in the song. And it's just kind of, it evolved from there to become this song that's kind of about, I guess, the three generations, like my grandmother, and then my mother who married into that side of the family, and then my experience too. So it's just kind of like this. I don't even know if that makes sense what I just said, but
no,
it's definitely it's a journey.
It's definitely harder, I think, to quantify the musical process because you're dealing on so many different levels. You're dealing with the musical element, the lyrical element, then the emotional element. There's like all of that, and then there's the performance side. That's like another spectrum of it as well. So I always find it pretty crazy for somebody to be able to try and put all those things together and have it turn out like well or sound great. Because like in comedy, it's very much not only just delivery and writing, but that's kind of it. Like you don't have to necessarily worry about how your delivery is going to be matched by something else that you can play at the same time. It's also, granted, it's also very subjective, but in terms of music, it's so multifaceted. I'm wondering, like, when you feel like you can consider a song is finished, or if even that makes sense of saying anything is finished.
Yeah. Well, can I just say that I find the idea of doing stand-up comedy like the most terrifying thing in the whole world. Like I do not understand how anyone can do it. So I really commend you for doing that kind of thing. And like and being on screen too, like and acting, like that kind of stuff terrifies me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, that's not only acting, but it's like the same. You're also taking acting and then singing and then also trying to get the music across. That's also a bunch of different things. But
it was scary. It was really scary. There's so many times where I was like, I don't know how to do this, y'all. But yeah. So in terms of a song being done, I usually just stop working on it when I like it. Like when I need to like get this feeling from it. Like I'm like, ooh, yes, like this tells a story about something, and I feel like I'm telling that story completely in the way that I want to. I don't think the song is ever really going to be done. I mean, for me, like I just kind of like eventually just give up. Basically, I'm like, oh yeah, I can call this a song, and then I'll play it, and I'll just like see how someone reacts. Like I'll see how my partner reacts or my friend, and I'll be like, yeah, so that's it. And they're like, and if they seem like, if they seem like they got it, if they seem like they kind of like get it, then I'm like, oh yeah, it's probably done. It's probably fine. Because I can change it around a million times. Like, but I think it's nice to try to stay true to, where I was when I was working on. I mean, of course I work on my songs and I edit them too. Like I really enjoy that process because I'll write like a first draft and then I like to go back and play around with all the words and stuff. But yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know when they're done. They just can't finish.
Yeah. No, sometimes as well for like writing comedy bits, like you kind of have to let it go. I mean, I think even with music, like when you're performing it live, you can play around with it because like fuck it, it's your song, it's your material. You can do whatever you want with it. But like having it on released in a single, or like having it on a special comedy special, or like having it immortalized on film. Like you're never really fully be satisfied sometimes. So
Yeah,
I can totally get it.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
is
Like, oh, sorry. Like,
no,
just
Lucas.
just to your point too. There comes a point when you just do too many takes of one thing that the point of diminishing returns just go way down when you
Yeah,
start to overanalyze and look at it way too hard. So how I like to think about it is, I'm sure Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't even want to watch his own films too.
Right.
Yeah, when he's doing The
yeah,
Revenant, he's just like, I hate my process, but it's done. And thank goodness sometimes that we can not be the best surveyors of our own art.
yeah.
We just have to
Mm.
let it out and let the people decide.
Yeah, that's so true. I actually like that when like I feel like that when I'm recording my music in the studio sometimes in terms of getting
Mhm,
the best take.
mhm,
Um, you know, sometimes I'll, if I'm doing like some, I don't know, like a harmony part or something,
mhm.
sometimes I do like many, many layers of harmonies on my voice. And
Nice.
if I'm
Mhm.
trying to do something, the right way, I'll record it like say 4 times, and then I'll be like, no, 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 I'll do a few more, and then I'll do like 20 of the same thing, and I'll have like 20 takes of like a 2-second part, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
my poor producer, has to like go through them, and then we like go through them, and then whenever we're going through them afterwards, I'm like, okay, there was a point where I just got it, and then I just started to do something that just wasn't working, and we should have
Right.
stopped a long time ago, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's like
Uh-huh.
you'll always be the most critical of yourself whenever you put anything out there. So it's like
Mhm.
sometimes you lose perspective
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
on what is actually working. Do you have a moment then from like when you started doing shows, started writing music? Do you remember like a specific performance where you really felt like, oh, this is what I want. This is somehow this environment, this show, the song, everything's working perfectly in my mind. It's like, this is what it feels like to actually be a singer. Because for me, it was definitely when I was able to do a show at the CBC Glenn Gould studio in front of like 300 people. That was the first
Wow.
time. Yeah, that was the first time it felt like I could walk out onto a stage. There's a lot of people there, do my jokes, do my set, and then feel the response of a large enough size audience that it feels like, okay, this is what it I imagine doing stand-up comedy is like. This is that moment. Do you have one of those?
I mean, I think that probably I'm kind of what I'm really wanting in the near future is to play with a band because I've been
Mm.
playing
Yeah.
solo for a couple years, and so I mean, I think probably the first time I played on a bill in a show in Montreal, it was actually like I had just met Gino, my producer, and um, him and I both, I think, opened for, yeah, we were opening for Rachel Kribbe. She's another awesome musician in Montreal, and she was doing a few shows for her EP release.
Mhm.
And I think that was the first time, or one of the first times, that I played on stage, and I was like, it was, I mean, it's, of course it's like thrilling because you
Yeah.
get terrified beforehand, and then when people clap, you're like, oh, it's fine then. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. This is I'm allowed to do this. To be honest, I don't think I've really had a moment where I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like. I think
Mm,
I have a little bit of imposter syndrome. Usually I'm just like, oh yeah, that had happened. That's
yeah.
great. Like, and if my friends come, and if I meet new people, and like, strangers I don't know seem to like the music, like,
Mhm.
I think, I mean, if I look at it in terms of that, like, honestly, like every time I do it, I'm like, I
Mm,
love it because I love the songs that I write. Like, I write with
yeah.
love, so I'm like, sometimes I might be like the happiest person in the room, honestly, like,
Oh.
because when I'm done a
That's
song, I'm like,
perfect.
fuck yeah, I love that song. So I'm like,
Yo,
I guess, oh yeah, I hope other people liked it too, at least parts of it or something. But I'm really looking forward to playing with a band. Like, I cannot
yeah.
wait to hear the songs and to like collaborate more with musicians like on stage. I really, really am looking forward to that, and
Mhm.
I think that will help, like, get bigger shows, like, and play it kind of like different types of shows and different venues, because obviously a singer-songwriter solo artist has a certain style to it, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing with the band. So I'll let you know. I feel like it's gonna feel fucking awesome to play with the band.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
I bet. Definitely.
Should
Yeah.
we go to word
Cool.
associations now? Is that?
Yeah, no, that definitely feels like a good point to stop, because like we're talking about kind of like what your goals are, what you're aspiring to, the next level towards making it. Yeah, let's go into. So usually we also do kind of like a little uh, palate cleanser, at the end. Just get rid of all the deep experiences and talking about all that, with just a basic word association. Relax your mind, let it all go, and then whatever first thing you think of comes to your head, you go for it. So this
Okay.
I think this time around I can start. So
Okay,
I'll
cool.
start with my 10 words, and then Lucas will go on to his. So let everything out, and then the first word that comes to mind when I say all these other words. Okay. Okay. First word: family.
Wait, so I'm telling you what word comes to my mind when you say a word.
When I say word, yeah, word is
Okay.
like word association.
Okay, got it. I wasn't sure if this is something that we're all doing. Like, anyway, it's fine. Okay.
I could have explained it. I think I could have explained it a little better, but yeah.
No, it's okay. I've been up for a really long time today. I got up really early, so I
Oh.
think I'm sure you're making. I'm sure you're making total sense. I just
Am I? Because sometimes I'm also not too sure.
who
But
knows?
yeah,
Let's just go with it.
let's go with
Okay,
it.
can I answer now? I know it's been a second
Yeah,
since you said the word, but I'm still okay. Family,
family.
everything.
All right.
Yeah,
Pineapple.
delicious.
Rain.
Glory,
Alone.
subdued.
Nice word.
Mhm.
Motivation.
Pilates.
Kumquat.
What's that?
I think it's a fruit. It's always a funny word. Kumquat.
Oh, wow, that's my word.
Mountain.
Lenny. I feel like a lot of my songs are written about mountains or
Yeah.
Oh, dope.
non-mountains or yeah.
Tightrope.
Clown.
Hmm. Satisfied.
Interesting. This is so hard for me to answer. Satisfied. Um, I don't know.
Huh? Hey,
Satisfied.
That's the word.
that's what it feels. That's how it feels.
Wow, that's very like this is. I'm learning a lot about
Ooh,
my mental state.
yeah, getting existential.
Yeah.
Last word: ending.
Ta-da!
There it is.
That's dope. That's dope.
Nice, nice. All right, Lucas. Now,
All
now
right.
that we've gone through the initial, understanding of the game, Lucas, you take it from here.
All right. All right. So firing away right now. Again, whatever comes to your mind first.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got first one. Dion.
Maine.
Home.
Peace.
Door.
Shut.
Twain.
Shania.
Preparation.
Nerves.
Stage.
Excitement.
Goal.
Soccer.
Progress.
Now.
Ooh.
Mm,
Single.
Birthday.
there it is.
Oh shit! I guess I should have figured this one out a bit more. Last word, birthday.
Spotify.
Nice.
Oh, there it is. All right. Thank you to Lenny for joining us on our podcast. Actually, oh, right. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. Actually, Lenny, it's a very, very unique name. Like, can you give us a quick idea of like how you came up deciding that as your moniker, your stage name?
Yeah. So Lenny is a nickname for Helen, and Helen is my middle name.
Oh, didn't know
And
that.
so I've never like really been like, sorry, mom and dad, never been a huge fan of my name, Lisa. That's my given name.
Yeah.
But Lenny's just been kind of like a nickname that kind of happened at some point for me, and I always just felt like it had like a little more sass that I feel like kind of embodies my personality a little more. So I just like I like to bring that with me on stage. So yeah.
That's like
Great.
Lenny Bruce, Lenny from
Lenny
Motorhead.
Bruce. Lenny Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patron saint of comedy, Lenny Bruce. Yeah.
Where can people find you, Lenny?
So people can find me on YouTube. If you look up Lenny Music, I think. I'm not the most searchable right now with Lenny because I didn't really think about Lenny Kravitz. But I'm
right.
on. Yeah, I'll let you know if I totally change my name or add like a million other names to my name from when my EP comes out. But so I'm on Instagram. It's Lenny Music MTL. And that's the same handle for Facebook as well. I've got a Facebook page and YouTube. I'm on Spotify. I've just got one song on Spotify right now, but which is called Birthday.
Yeah.
And yeah, but my newest thing that everyone should definitely watch is the music video for Birthday, which is on my YouTube channel. And I've got a bunch of other live videos on there as well.
Great. Highly recommended.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Everyone should check it out.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks so much, guys, for having me. It's been great to talk to you.
Thanks for having us on board. And I guess, Lucas, quickly, what's your social media handles?
You can find me on Instagram and on Facebook at Lucas John Ing.
Yep. Great. And for me, everywhere you can find at Josh Yang Comedy. So check that out. And yeah, thank you, Lenny, for being our first musician on our Have We Made It Yet podcast.
Hey,
very honored. Thank you.
Great. All right, great. So that's the end of the podcast. See you guys later.
Happy quarantining.